Hi, everyone. Hello.
Wow.
I'm so happy to see everyone this week. Welcome to 100
Yes.
Talk. Why am I acting like this? Because once again, in the middle of like going live, I have to reconnect YouTube all over again, and I'm not sure why. Making me feel like Hotline League, but we did it and we're back. And we're
Here
ready
we
to
are,
100
Cole.
Talk. Yeah. So this is our
We made it.
LCS fan show. I'm Cole. That's Jordan. We focus specifically on 100 Thieves. We're not diamond analysts. We're not challenger players. We are just fans who like it and like to talk about it. And we like to be with chat, like to see
And
our
darn
children.
That's enough, Cole.
That's all that can be asked of us. Woo. All right. So this weekend, a lot of stuff happening. First of all, 100 Thieves esports just in full action. So
Yeah.
that was wild.
Hope you didn't have plans.
Yeah, hope you could commit a full 3 days to that. But yeah, go ahead.
If obligations weren't involved, Cole, this would have been a holiday weekend. It's just so much going on. There's so much to watch and so much good stuff. And so much to think about. So plenty of content there for us to talk about tonight.
Yep. And so like I said, specifically, we're talking about LCS here. And this is a 1-2 weekend for us. Who saw that coming? Definitely not Prophet Cole. For the first time this week, or for the first time this week, and for the first time this split, Prophet Cole got the record of the weekend wrong. So the streak officially ends. They get shutdown gold on me. And
that's right.
That is just too bad. In fact, the exact opposite of what I predicted happened. We won the game I said we'd lose, and we lost the games I said we win. So there's a lot of discussion around that because, the losses.
Had your test upside down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was looking at it in a mirror. Because it was Golden Guardians who handed us the first loss, and that's where we must start today. Look, along the way, we're gonna touch on some general topics that we'll try and revisit in greater detail, but we're gonna start with the games this week and see where the conversation goes. Because look, Golden Guardians, what a surprise! All right,
what?
I think they had lost like 39 of their last 40 games coming into this or something like that, right? I was feeling fairly confident against Golden Guardians, but they made a little roster change, and they got the thorn in our side player and added him to the roster, which is Licorice,
who for some reason had been completely powerless on FlyQuest. Like, I just genuinely don't understand how a simple change. It's not even like he had time to practice with the team. Like, did he have 2 scrims with them? Maybe a full week of scrims, and completely different player. And back to, like you said, unfortunately, the player who has just been the bane of Ssumday's existence these last few years.
Yeah, that's a thing. We've called it out on the pod a lot. Basically, it's a rare weekend when Licorice doesn't look pretty good against Ssumday, which has always been frustrating as a believer in the Ssumday is definitely better than him camp. I've always been frustrated whenever that happens. But it definitely happened this weekend. 200-year champ Gwen locked in by Licorice, and he straight pulled Ssumday's card. I think it was 2 solo kills in one game, man.
Yeah, it was. Ouch. He kept trying. He kept going back. He's like, no, this is the time. And look, on some of these, it wasn't just like, I don't have the same stats as this champion. You've inflated her stats, please. Can you not do that? Like, there were just outplays, right? There was good dodges and movement from Licorice. There were Gnar ults that didn't get much of anything other than some like river breeze plants. So yeah, Licorice just continued to have his number. And certainly the fact that he was on Gwen made it that much more punishing for us as an overall team. Because sometimes, you can get a solo kill and it's really not that big a deal. But it just felt like the snowball started rolling and it didn't stop until Licorice got player of the week.
Yeah. off of a very surprising 3-0 weekend for them.
I think they lost
lost
Saturday,
that third game, right?
Sunday they won against Liquid.
Either way, the point is, dude,
they lost to TSM. They had a hard. This is the hardest weekend. They had us, TSM, and TL, dude, and they went 2-1.
And they okay. Well,
that's saying a lot.
And it's saying a lot to 100 Thieves fans who I think were left wondering what in the world happened. Jordan, do you have any thoughts on what in the world happened other than Licorice's Gwen?
Let's see where to start. Okay.
Where to start? Dang. Don't you hate it when you're talking about a loss and that's the first thing? Okay, where to start?
Where to start? I'm powered by Rip It tonight. I don't know about you or anyone else.
Oh, thanks.
But I am.
Yeah, so don't want to neglect the sponsor obligations.
Yeah. Yeehaw, Cole. Where to start? Right here.
Oh, by the way, G-Force for Gucci, of course.
Gucci. The G stands for
Gucci Force. We'll talk about that collab later in the pod, by the way. Yeah.
That's not where we're currently starting the FlyQuest segment. We could. Or sorry, not FlyQuest, Golden Guardians. All right. Here's what I'm going to start. I think, Cole, you can trace this back to the ill-fated 1v1 that happened with two mid laners vying for the spot of who will play Yasuo on Friday against Golden Guardians. Abadaga won it, but I think we all actually lost. I mean, I think Yasuo is currently a champion that you can play in League of Legends, competitive, if that's what you choose to do. Like, I think that's a legit thing. And I didn't hate, actually, like I've said this before, I'll say it again, I'm sure. There are versions of this game where we absolutely smash Golden Guardians because we had this beautiful combo that actually worked many times. There were many different opportunities for the last breath to come through, and it did. And so you had the brilliant opener from Diana, which we've seen work so many times. We then had the follow from Yasuo. And between those two, you would think that most of these fights would be over as soon as they began. We just didn't have the damage. We just didn't have the stats. We didn't have the damage. I think Gwen had the sustain. Like, it wasn't a failure of execution as I watched it, because we did hit this a number of times. It was just that the damage wasn't there to deliver on what we had hoped would happen. And so we would set up really well. We'd get this crazy play, and then they would just keep fighting and kill us. And that's kind of how, for me, that was kind of the start and the end of it. It's like, well, you're relying. If you're running a Wombo comp, you've got to have enough damage there to finish the fight as it starts. And we didn't. We just didn't have it.
Yeah. It always seemed like it was just not enough. And sometimes that kind of backfired on us. I guess in my mind, I'm bleeding with the EG game, because I was thinking of the failed tower dive on Jizuke in mid. But, this was another one of those games where just everything like doesn't quite get the job done, And the thing is, we've talked about how our lane leads can kind of cover up what happens in the early game to us a lot of times because of how excellent our players are in lane. And that makes this thing interesting, because this game was actually still pretty close for like 20 minutes. And that despite it really not feeling like it was going well for us. Right. A lot of gold collected, especially bot side. If I'm remembering right, didn't FBI get down like 3 turret plates like super early? I think that was this game. And we just were keeping that whole thing close all the way up to like the Baron fight at 21 minutes. I don't know what the difference is. I can't really explain it. And that's what felt so weird about this game. I think like everybody who's a 100 Thieves fan kind of just felt dazed by this. And maybe it was the early aggression out of Golden Guardians. They had a really early bot lane play.
A great play.
They seemed to want to fight continually. Right.
Yeah.
And it just felt like, geez, man, like we're off. Nothing. It feels, it's like you're not sick enough to stay home from work, but you're not going to do your best work and feel great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, call it perfect timing. I think the Golden Guardians played well. Licorice had a great game. The bot lane early pressure was great. You know, them getting kills early in the game was huge. And yeah, that's what you want to do when you have a Callista. So really well done from them to hit us early. And we talked about this last week. We asked a question, and people in the community were talking about this. What's it going to look like if we're playing from behind? And we played from behind this whole game, basically. And I think I'd say maybe one of the more concerning things, like, look, when you play from behind, you learn things. We've spent years talking about this piece of because we used to be a team that played from behind almost exclusively, right? Like, let's not forget. And you learn it a lot. And the question always becomes, what do you do with what you learn? This is a really interesting game for that reason to me, because what I feel like I picked up is execution-wise, we still have a lot to bring to a game like this, even if we get hit. Right? It's not like we fell apart and we were just, you know, feckless. I think that was not the word I said I'd bring back. That's the word I'll use here. It's like we still executed. And I think that's probably what it comes down to, is we didn't have those crushing lane leads. Imagine if you had an extra item on your Yasuo or on your Diana, or even if FBI was that much more fed, some of those team fights go our way for sure.
Yeah.
Because either somebody's insta-deleted and it's a 5v4 at best for them, or FBI is there to hit a Q and take out 2 people, right? Like, easy as that when you got a Kai'Sa. So, this shows how important to our team identity it is that we have the leads that we have come to rely on, I think. Because we're not necessarily, like, this is not a scrappy pick them apart, get a sneaky pick here or there. Certainly wasn't the comp to do that. And I don't really think that's our team identity either, right? Like, we're the team that shows up and sets up a great play and knocks it down and then punishes you for it in a lot of these wins that we have. And I think this is just a game where we did that and it didn't work. They had foiled that win condition. So hats off to Golden Guard. And they did it in a really unexpected way. They did it with early pressure in the bot lane.
Yeah.
And they did it with great top lane plays.
The one thing you think they could never get, early pressure in the bot lane, right?
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah.
The Rel pick was pretty devastating, I thought. I don't think, here, let me look. I'll go back and see some of this match history. I don't think we've had to play against many Rels as of late. And
she's been a bit out of favor, I think. Yeah.
And that was really huge against us. I just felt like, was it what's his name? Chimes engages continually just messed everything up for us. And I don't know if I'd have to look at our pick ban history. I don't know if we've been banning out Rel or if we just got used to teams not picking it. But that was a big problem. And double marksman, man. So you got marksman mid, the Lucian mid, which is the pick that EG took against us and beat us also.
Yeah.
And the Callista bot. The double marksman thing, maybe a way to deal with some of the things that we bring with Abadaga just not playing champs that are conducive to that sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. If I'm remembering right, I believe this is the game where Abadaga actually did unexpectedly well in lane. Like, I think he kept pace pretty well in a matchup that you would expect to drop.
Like laning wise. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that for me, in both of our losses, that was a consistent theme. I think he continues to show his quality as a player. There were situations where he shouldn't have survived that he did. There were escapes that he made. I think he's still doing a really, really good job, even in some of these unfavorable matchups. Like, he did his part in this game to keep pace where you would expect him to fall behind, and then to, of course, set up for the Wombo, which he did reliably. But I just think that's something that will be a strength of ours. Like, that is, again, what you learn from playing behind. That's insurance for us, is he's going to be the player who will, as Ssumday has been historically, they will invest attention and time into, and he will make it a bad investment. He's just that slippery. I think it was the TSM game where he had the best one of those and we won that game. Mm-hmm. But But, in these games too, like he would show up and get something most of the times from these fights where we had either gotten nothing or we were on the brink of losing even more. So I think his quality shines through, even though overall it didn't work.
Yeah. Do you think there's anything to the idea that this was a draft loss? I heard some people kind of writing it off as a draft loss. Your thoughts on that?
I feel like to really give, I would want to have like the order and stuff, and it's just I can't remember what the order was, but I guess I'll say for me, this feels consistent with what we've done all season long, which is try new stuff. This is yet another new look, right? And we talked about how when you do that, you're going to lose eventually, right? You're going to find the thing that doesn't work as well. And this was it. So, I mean, I think if you want to call the coach's role in deciding what the strategy for the game is and how you're going to win it, draft, then yeah, this, like, because the players did their job, right? More or less. And you could pick individual mistakes and spots where they could have done it differently or better. But
I'm not sure I'm that hard. Forgiving of. I think you're being a little more forgiving than I would be.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's like if you consider FBI and who he losing an early lead in the bot lane as like their fault, then yeah. But like the coach, you're either drafting a team that is good at fighting back into a game, or you're drafting a team that gains a lead and then closes. And this is a gain a lead and close comp, right? There's just not a lot of room to like scrap your way back in with this.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
So
it is interesting though, and we'll move on to the EG game here. But it is interesting. This stat was, I don't know if this was on broadcast or just something that someone dumped into our Discord, but we have yet to come back from a 2K gold lead this split. Deficit, excuse me. So
interesting.
When the other team has spotted 2K gold, we haven't been able to come back. That's like you mentioned on the previous pod, we were talking about how that is the one play style or whatever you want to call it, the one look from the team that we haven't seen, right? The only other unproven thing is, can they come back? And we didn't see that this week. I'm not sure how much to read into that, but we're talking only 2K. It's not like 4,500. It's 2K. Cloud9 in splits past is a team where 2K gold lead means nothing. Right. And I think ideally we want to be in that spot where we can still threaten from behind. And so it's interesting actually that we haven't had that sort of comeback. I don't think we're not capable, but it is interesting. And we've only had, just a few games to be down or whatever, but
I've had 4 losses now.
Yeah, that's 4. Well, and 4 losses after this weekend. So I guess we haven't really had that many opportunities, but maybe 1 out of 4 times, you pull that off.
Well, one of them CLG, and we know how that game went.
Yeah.
I guess I look at that stat and I think more of it as you can be a victim of your success on that, right? Like you're either really winning a lot. Like if you're playing against a top 3 team and they're playing you close, there's a much better chance that they're going to be 2K gold up while you're still in the game, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't read too much into it just because we're not playing a lot of teams close.
But it could matter in a series, right? Like you think about a final series, that's where that sort of thing could matter. Do your players know how to handle that? So we'll see.
Yeah, that for me, that's still an open question.
Yeah.
I would look less at that specific stat and more at the fact that I think these 2 games are probably the best indicator of how much of a challenge that might be for us.
Yeah.
Because the other ones felt a little bit like first game of the season and then CLG. Like that was our reference point up to here.
Yep.
Up to now.
Well, EG also getting the win against us, also taking Lucian mid and playing double marksman against us. Also having plays that just weren't enough for us. You know what I mean? The closer gank on Jizuke early in mid lane was so painful, where closer barely goes down and Jizuke barely gets out. Man, that was disappointing. But there's lots of stuff. I don't know. In a weird way, I felt like this loss felt worse than the Golden Guardians loss, even though EG is a higher quality opponent overall. And there were lots of things that I had, I guess, questions about or thoughts about or things that make me pause. One of them, Jordan, just in general, what are your thoughts on closer Viego?
I don't like that. No, I
You
don't
weren't
like that.
feeling it.
No, man.
This was the second time he's played that. Was it second or third?
Yeah, we've seen it more than once, whether it's 2 or 3, for sure. Yeah, and he just doesn't seem like himself. I think the champ for me, it feels like a win more champ in a lot of ways. Like you are in a fight and you start resetting, and then you reset and you reset and you reset, and then you clean up the fight. I think of closer a lot more like a
setup guy.
Just like, yeah, well, setup guy. And like, I mean, not to get ahead of us, but to look at the Olaf game, right? Like he's there to take a fight over. He's not there to clean up a fight. And I just feel like that's, and I know, look, that's oversimplifying Viego and what he can do. But like those are the plays where Viego really goes off, is where he has a guy to jump on and finish off. And I don't know. Honestly, it seems like he's not that comfortable on him either. Like we saw that first dive is just a great example of not knowing the limits of the champion. Like that is exactly what that is, right? Newer champion, so he doesn't have 1,000 games on him. That's guaranteed. But it just doesn't seem like he really gets a lot of like the millimeters that make the difference in these dives. That's how close they are. And
yeah,
we've seen what happens when you're not confident on that.
Yeah, like maybe the difference between a challenger level player and a pro level player, right, is like those tiny margins of difference that end up turning plays, especially at lower levels and stuff like that, right? Again, it's not something I don't feel like we're shining a spotlight on this glaring weakness or anything. It just doesn't feel completely up to the standard that we've gotten used to this split. Like that's what it feels like to me.
This is kind of similar to, this reminds me of when we talked about him on Lilia, right? Like, just don't like it. Just doesn't seem like it's his style.
Yeah. And there are plenty of champs that he's had like great success on. I mean, his Rumble was really great. The split, his Diana, of course, basically set the meta. Right. But this is just, it's not feeling like the one. I don't think it's bad by any means. Like, and I think on at least one of his previous, I can't remember if it's been 2 or 3 games that he's played this on, and the site I used to look at this quickly has not updated since July 2nd. So I can't see what his recent history is. I feel like we've gotten 2 or 3 games, and I felt like one of them he looked okay and one of them he did not. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not going to read too much into it because I think on the whole he's playing a lot. But it looked like, I mean, just looking at our notes, you had a few specific things that, were pointing to what he did on Viego that weren't so great.
Yeah, and this is another game where, we did, and again, without looking closely at every game, I can't say that this is something we haven't done in the past. You tend to not notice the things that you are doing when they work because, your reaction is like, sweet, yes.
Oh, sick.
Oh, yeah. And that's been almost every game for us, literally. So it's easy to kind of overlook things, but when it doesn't work, it stands out even more so. We had the failed dive in mid, handed first blood over to Jizuke, which is not something you love to do. As if anybody is going to be, and it may be overdone to call him coin flippy, but like donating first blood doesn't, it's not a 50-50 odd anymore that he's going to have a good or bad game. It's something worse than that for you. And then we tried another dive in the top lane against Ornn, incredibly tanky. Couldn't do anything, just wasted a bunch of time, got like 2 hits on the turret and then took 2 turret shots on the way out. That's not a great trade. And we gave our second Drake. So like a lot of the stuff that we've come to rely on is, objective control and all that. So when we are trying these dives, the return is not great so far. At least in this game, it wasn't. And, I kind of like, that's something we've talked about needing to see more of. And this is not the pitch that you make if you're trying to convince somebody that we should shift our strategy to dive more, right? It just didn't work that well. And this was much later in the game, but he did whiff a smite. I think he ended up with like 54 HP or something, and then Aphelios grabs it for soul. And
though in his defense at that point, Aphelios is probably 100% crit for like 3,500 damage. So
he autos once every 0.3 seconds, and everyone does 1,000 HP. So it's hard to probably time that one out. But yeah, he like waited the whole fight, jumped over, and then just did. But again, I think we'd lost like 3 people on our team at that point. So it was just the period on a very sad sentence around the river.
Yeah.
But that, it was like, it wasn't just that his mechanics weren't super sharp in that game. There were other things that made you say like, this is not a great closer game for sure.
Yeah. And Dusty Main in chat calling this game the Danny Boy special. And that's really like, we were just talking about how much Aphelios was doing for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say, so we had been so pleased with the meta up until this point, like where the patches were and everything. It just felt like you could play the game a lot of different ways, and there were really powerful champs, but there was a variety and there were counters and stuff. But it's really feeling like Gwen and Aphelios are just too much at this point.
They're back.
You know what I mean? And Aphelios especially, just like, if you get him, it's usually GG. So it sucks to have Danny on that and to have Danny like go so hard on it. He hit double-digit kills, by the way, in this. 10, 2, and 5 ended up.
Gosh, that hurts. I think right now Aphelios is spotlighting a lot of really impressive ADCs in the league. Yeah. Great busted champ and great players is a dangerous combination.
Yeah, I was gonna say Danny looks really good. Yeah, 17 years old. He looks really
going
good.
To be something special. Yeah.
We have a new double lift. But yeah, so let's see what else do we, who he's Lulu.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling it. This to me felt like the first game with who he was like, all right. Like I would legit be okay with like voting him MVP up until like this past weekend, right? And maybe still, but like,
one weekend is one weekend,
right? One weekend is one weekend, but the Lulu pick was really like, it didn't seem to get done what we wanted to do. We didn't protect Kog'Maw enough. I mean, FBI died a ton, and some of that was actually his own doing, but I don't know. You pointed out very astutely, Ignar got on Thresh, and so what do you do when that happens? That's kind of a big deal. Ignar's Thresh sends chills down the spines of ADCs across the entire world. He is really, really good. Too. Yeah, the blind hook. Yeah.
Into the
everything
Viego.
Ignar knows he learned from Stunt, right?
That is, yes. That was just insane. That exclamation point for him. But yeah.
Is that his first? Is that his first whiff of the season?
I mean, I didn't love the Nautilus either, and there were a couple key moments where, like, look, hook champs, feast or famine. You're either on it or you're not. And he got, there's a very important hook that got. I think he was aiming where the dash was before the dash happened, and the dash just got him out of that. So I think it was a combination of things. Again, this is it's Aphelios Thresh. Like, good luck protecting your Kog'Maw, because there's what can't Aphelios do? He can root. He can dash, and that
right now. Now he can dash. Yeah,
he can do that too. So like there were multiple times where FBI died, and he was just chain CC the whole time. Like, you can use your ult, you can use your shield. It doesn't matter. If there are 3 dudes wailing on your permalocked ADC, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you are. So that's a champ that I feel like it's, if you have no great target to save in a fight, you look absolutely useless, and you are just useless.
I was gonna say, like, the key point for this is when you get like the key wild growth, right? That's when you like, if as a spectator you notice the Lulu is like, oh man, like, how did he live through that? That's insane, right. That sort of thing. And we didn't get a single moment like that.
No, we got one. It was a wild growth he put on Viego, knocked up one dude, and then Viego died. Like, I mean, but you put that in the next game. And granted, he was on Thresh the next game. I don't think we should have picked any differently. But like you wild growth the Olaf, and he's 700 feet tall, and he gets a quadra, and people are like, this guy's a genius. I mean, clearly, what can he do? So tough draw. Like that, Lulu feels bad in that game. That's not a fun game to be on a Lulu for sure. Because like a 400 HP shield lasts for half a second against an Aphelios who is
half a second might be generous.
Yeah, exactly. If he's got the chakrams out, then it's 0.1.
Yeah. Well, we also have to talk about. I think this is going to snowball into a bigger topic too. We also have to talk about Ssumday, right? So we mentioned giving over the 2 solo kills against Licorice. We mentioned just not looking very sharp in game 1. Game 2, kind of more of the same, right?
Yep.
Last split, I think we were kind of on the front edge of bringing up his performance, and then it became obvious as like, okay, yeah, he's like slacking. And then it seemed like he brought everything back for this split, but it has been a little concerning as of late. I saw an interesting back and forth in our Twitch chat that I actually think is valuable to talk about here. And that's like, it doesn't seem to be the mechanics and reaction speed and all that are getting Ssumday in trouble. It seems to be just the overall, decision making and, what he chooses to do with his positioning and everything that's getting him in trouble. Right. And that's concerning. 'Cause like, when you talk about age, and he's still like objectively young, right? But he's been playing League of Legends forever. And when people talk about age, they tend to focus on like the reaction speed and the mechanics falling off and everything. But it doesn't really seem to be the case for him. It seems to be more of a case of situationally what he's doing. We brought up how it might be that he's just been getting so much push in his lanes that he's a kind of ripe target or whatever. But I don't know. This past weekend, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Playing in the Licorice, he was not getting that positioning. He just was taking bad trades and then would not have enough to retreat. This one, he's playing into an Ornn, a champion that he knows very, very, very well, and he's on Renekton, champion that he knows very, very well, and didn't seem to have the calculus right. So, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that it kind of comes with the territory. Like, you cannot both be a great top laner and be a victim of your positioning at all times. Like, if you know what I mean, if you have to play cautiously, or else you're going to give over, kills, and then I like that is a weakness to your game. Like, it's not just like an inevitability. It has to be something that you know what to do with. Whether it's like, hey, we need, and it might not be all him, right? Jungle proximity is a thing. I'm thinking specifically of one. I think this is maybe TSM, so I might be getting ahead of us a little bit here, but just way, way advanced in lane without vision behind you. Like, there is a not 0% chance that you are just completely dead in that situation. And like Gwen is great at being slippery, but not if you're being chased down by melee champions. Like, doesn't have a lot to do in that case. If you're not already fed to the point that you can just kill them both outright. So, for me in this one, like the play that jumped out was he was just checking the bush and walked right into a game, like into the open and waiting arms of Svenskeren. So, like it's those kinds of plays where it's like, we've seen it happen a few times. Like FBI did it once. Svenskeren or Abadaga did it pretty famously against the Fiddlesticks. So, it happens.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff where it's like old Ssumday, you would always get the impression he would check the bush. The dude would jump on him. He would kill one or the other or both. And then
and never
continue to do is what he does.
If it's a double kill, he might die. Otherwise, he's getting away. Yeah.
Right. He somehow convinces the guy to give up last hit to the turret, even though he didn't need to be by the turret.
Yeah.
So, like that is what feels different now. It's like, that is just a straight loss of advantage now.
Yeah.
And you don't have TP up, and so you're walking back to lane, and then you just miss a wave, right? It's like, this is what is more concerning to me.
And I don't want to overreact to it, because I don't think it's like, oh, actually Ssumday bad. It's not like that at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just when we are this good, when we've shown such an amazing form earlier on the split, you start magnifying all the flaws, right? And those things become a bigger deal, because that's all you have left to get rid of, right? Is those little mistakes and those flaws, and that's what we're dwelling on here. So I think one of the bigger things, though, it doesn't seem to me that other top laners in the LCS are scared of him anymore. Whereas he had a palpable fear that he would strike into the hearts of the opponents right before.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to be there anymore. And maybe last split, Alphari and Licorice just kind of like pushed that out. And they're like, look, you don't need to be scared. And I think like when players respect another player so much, like they'll be more cautious, they'll be more calculated, they'll assume they're going to lose more in the trades than they might objectively lose, just because they have respect for the player's reputation, right? And so they don't take as many chances. And I think that has changed for Ssumday as of late. I don't think people are giving him that same fearful respect. It's like the fear of God, like the reverence that you have for this player. And I think it's going away, which is a mental shift, which opens up opportunities for other players to capitalize on those things. And that's, if you're playing against him, that's going to be a really it's going to be a really freeing thing for you. It's similar to the way where, we're sitting here trying to figure out how we're losing to the lower ranked teams and always stomping the highest ranked teams. It could be one of those things too, where teams respect us and we respect them. And so we're kind of handshaking early, on how these games have been going, and just nobody's playing too crazy. And then since we're just better, we overtake them or whatever, I think teams sometimes have that respect for each other as well. And so it's, you handshake until later on in the game. I don't know. I just wonder if that's the thing that's happening. I don't think Ssumday's in a bad spot. I don't think we need to replace Ssumday this split or anything like that. He's still favorite all-time player, but it's just something to keep eyes on, right?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. He is not feeling like the dominant player. I think everybody with this specific roster on our best day, it feels like we have 5 potential best in role players, which is insane. And that's why I think that's probably the strongest argument for why we're in first place. And I think what is, like the trend line on this, thinking back to the end of last split, and then some of our like more, or just some of Ssumday's less strong performances, I think the question starts to become, is there still an argument here for best in position player? And honestly, when Licorice was on FlyQuest, he was not in that conversation.
No, he was not
when
at all.
Alphari was only doing Jersey Mike's commercials, he wasn't in that conversation. Although did he not play on Saturday?
I thought he played all games this weekend. Am I tripping?
Google told me that Jenkins played. I don't know if that was just Google being weird, but their little widget.
Well, he didn't do anything against. Did they play Golden Guardians too? Was it that they got beat by, and he looked not great? I think he's on Mundo.
So he played one.
Anyway, go ahead.
Anyhow, like top lane is changing. That's a shifting landscape, and Ssumday is no longer to me the clear like FBI and we'll talk about this next game. Best bot lane, no question. Closer, player of the week in the conversation. Abadaga in the conversation. And I think that's where I'm at on Ssumday. It's like I need to see a return to form of some kind for me to say, to even put forward an honest argument that he is the best top laner in the league. And just based on what we've seen in the last few weeks, I don't think that it's there right now. And that's not to say that it can't come back or that it won't come back. But the more recent, and like he said this as much, like look back at his after game tweets. Sorry, I played bad. Thanks for the team for the carry. Like, I think he's tweeted that more than once, so he recognizes it, I'm sure. It's there.
Yeah. So something to keep your eyes on. Like I said, I don't think this is a sky is falling moment for us, especially because of what happened in the TSM game. So let me do my little thing about this right now. I mean, I tweeted kind of my thoughts on the loss and the timing. I do not care at all that we lost these games this weekend. Like, I feel totally fine. I don't feel like, oh, now everybody's going to come for us. We're going to lose our spot. And the reason why I don't is because we had the proper response against TSM. Okay. I honestly, I don't want my team to ever go undefeated. I want them to get a regular season loss or two that feel really bad so that they can know that they're vulnerable. They're not immortal, right? And shore up mistakes. And if I had to guess, based on who he said in the post game, right, where he's basically like, we had a really bad week of scrims this week. The practice was off, things weren't clicking. I really don't think it's anything more than that. I really don't think it's anything more than that. And after losing 2 unexpectedly, to a team in Golden Guardians that looked completely rejuvenated and threatening and went on a 3-0 I'm sorry, they did go 2-1, sorry. But they took down 2 very good teams, including us. And then to drop the other one to EG, who, Tim Sevenhusen with Oracle's Elixir has been talking about, the early or the gold stats for EG, making the argument that they're actually like super good, when it comes to those stats. And they've won, I think, 8 in a row, is it? That EG's on, something like that. They've just been really strong lately. And to turn around and to beat the other competitor for top in the league soundly is like, okay, we had 2 bad days after a bad week of scrims. We got it together for the one that matters, right? I would feel differently if we lost to TSM. I still wouldn't be like super panicky, even though it would have been an 0-3. But the fact that we beat them just shows me that it's like, this is a team that's not going to get knocked off their groove for long. And so I just don't feel that need to panic. Do we have flaws? Yeah. Earlier on in the split, it's like, we are a team who does not have weaknesses right now. Right. Over the course of the split, other teams have gotten better. We maybe don't have the like absolute iron grip on the meta that we had earlier in. It's just like we're not as perfect. Our form isn't as good. You know what I mean? And that's just the way it is. But we're talking about how can we win best of 5s? And we are still positioned so well to do that. And coming off of 2 losses in a row that were pretty deflating, and turn around and throw like a freaking Mike Tyson uppercut onto TSM after that. It's like, no, don't need to worry. We don't need to panic. We're good. Yeah. Like, we're not perfect, but we're good. And we're the contender that we thought we were.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like, I think that's what feels like the difference to me. The last time we had a great looking team was Lock-In. And I think let's not forget, there's a ton of hype. People were very excited about us. We made it into the, best ofs in that tournament. And then that immediately became a question. Are these guys for real? And I think, to your point, the fact that we have, we stopped winning briefly and then continued to dominate the other team that if we lost that game, we would not be in first place. To beat that team is as good a testament to your position at the end of the week as there can possibly be. It's not like we had a rebound game against CLG and then we were like, oh, back to first place. Like, we beat the team that would have passed us. So yeah, I think you're right. Like, and it doesn't mean that we're always and will always be the best team, and that TSM isn't better than us on any given day, or that in any game.
TSM bad example.
But yeah.
More on like that.
What it means to me is we belong in this conversation. Right? Yeah. This is not a fluke. It's not us getting lucky with scheduling, right? Like this is,
and that's the thing. Every team we've lost to has caught raging fire when we've lost to them. Immortals started off the split red hot. They have lost either 6 of their last 7 or 7 of the last 8. Basically, since Gihoto was like, I think the gap is closed and we're right up there with those top teams. They've lost 6 out of 7 or maybe 7 out of 8, right?
Right.
CLG came alive against us with the bongo comp that they invented and got them a 3-0 weekend, and then now they're destroying their image on social media.
Perfect.
EG, red hot right now. Golden Guardians, red hot after that 3-0 weekend. We just get those teams at their turning point. And maybe the victory against us is the thing that really gives them the belief in themselves, and that sustains them for a week or two.
Right.
And that's
actually
fine.
a really interesting point, Cole.
Yeah, that's fine. And like then turn around and like look at what are the top teams. Okay? Historically, and kind of what people still believe now, you know, it's like TSM, TL, and C9, right? C9, they're 9-9 this split, I think, but I think people still think Playoff Perks is going to come back. They're going to be contender. TSM, obviously, the other, you know, major favorite, and TL always a factor, right? We're 6-0 against them, and none of the games have been close. Like, we popped them, we destroyed them. So we're only getting caught out by the teams when they get the lightning in the bottle moments. And you're not going to have that lightning in the bottle in a best of 5 against it. I still just don't believe that. So,
right.
Despite what has been happening, I just don't feel the need to really worry about this team in an LCS context.
Right. Like a triple round robin is not a substitute for best of 3. It's not the same. But I think there is something to be said for the top teams who we would expect if you were to just do the semifinals based on the top 4 teams right now. None of them have come close to challenging us. That means something, right? And I think you could even argue that best of 1s are more coin flippy than best of 3s or 5s. And to not even get close in 2 best of 1s, you know, that speaks to the consistency and the quality of the team. So I think it's actually super interesting what you brought up about us playing all of these teams at the beginning of their streak, right? Nobody else knew what Licorice on Golden Guardians would be or look like.
No.
And we found that out the hard way. And, you know, like player of the week Licorice we were the introduction to that one. Like we caught the first pass of it. So yeah, very, very interesting. I agree with you. I think we're still in good shape for postseason format.
Yeah. And so, you know, let's talk through just briefly a couple things for the TSM game. It's not a lot to talk about because of, you know, we destroyed them. First of all, I'm done with people talking about TSM versus 100 Thieves, who's better. Last time we played them, you know, I was like, look, we destroyed them. Let's calm down for a while. This time I'm like, let's not have this conversation again. All right. If we get TSM in finals, sweet. We're done. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to hear any more talk about that. If you want to talk about EG maybe challenging for that spot, at least for now, I'm cool with that. Please do not bring up TSM though. All right. They got to play us close before we can start talking about that. And yeah, that's my main thing about TSM is just like, if I'm being honest about it, I think we have favorable matchup against them. You know, they're like teams that just you match up poorly against, and it's always a struggle.
Right.
That's the situation for them and us right now. They look a lot better against the other teams than they look against us. I don't know why. I'm not smart enough to figure that out, but we have their number. We have their formula. Jordan, maybe it's top lane. What do you think about the top lane? How do you like Huni?
I mean, Dr. Mundo, signature champ for him. Just insta-lock it every time. Can't lose a game with Huni on Mundo. No, I mean, it's my comments remain reflective of.
I don't get it, right? Jordan will never get it.
I mean, it's just, if you would have told me that they're paying a third of what they pay for him, I'd say, yes, this makes sense. This guy is he's reliably about a third as much as what I'd pay for the most expensive top laner in the league. And that I don't know, maybe
I would love to have you as like, I don't know, like I know they don't do this, but like if they had like a board overseeing the decisions made by the League of Legends staff, and they're talking about Huni and Jordan's just sitting there like, is it just me? Am I the only one here? It's not doing anything for me, guys.
It's not. I'm missing it. It's the thing that's great about TSM is that currently they hold the two players that we are the most befuddled by, you being PoE, and so it's just great right now because look, everything we said about Ssumday, like if they're making the argument, people are making the argument now, and this I promise we'll stop talking about Huni soon after I completely just beat this one to death. But it's look, everybody's saying, Cole, I'm hearing everybody say this is his best split in a long time. And it doesn't add up to me.
Wow, this is his best.
I mean, look, I don't know. It's
Jordan, you must always like turn around to get a drink or take a bite of your sandwich every time he makes a good play or something.
Yeah, there's a in a sitcom version of 100 Talk. There's always some like visual block, like somebody walks in front of the TV as he's getting a solo kill, and I'm like, it's a quiet day for Huni, huh? This was a bad game from him.
I should say for the record, since we just spent a lot of time trashing him, I see Huni's value a lot more than Jordan does. I'm not fully in the like this is Huni's the best ever camp. I'm definitely not there, but I just want to distance myself from your strong attitude.
Let me put a couple of qualifiers on this. He has since I've been watching, I think he's been the most expensive top laner in the league, and I will not hear the argument that he has demonstrated that kind of value. Like he's not Alfari. He's not Alfari. And people like Alfari coming in only make it that much clearer that he has not justified the incredible sums of money that have been paid to him. Look, and I know I'm not alone in saying and thinking this. And so it continues. And it seems to me that he is having a better split. But like I think about him on Clutch, I feel like he single-handedly dissolved that organization. They had to file for bankruptcy because they paid all of their money to Huni, and I just don't get it. It's not his fault. He has a great agent, I don't know what else to say. It's just weird. More than anything, it's weird.
This is probably the most slanderous segment we've ever done. This is not the kind of content we typically make.
I don't know, man. I guess you wanted specifics on
it's
why
like
I'm
that,
confused.
It's like that GIF I made where I have the shade dial on my toaster and I turn it all the way up. It's like you getting ready to go in on it. Might have to tweet that later. Okay, let's bring it back. Just talk quickly about the game so we can get to general stuff.
Okay.
But you did mention PoE, and how that the way you feel about Huni is the way I feel about PoE.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, locked in. PoE's got the Azir. Yeah, baby, what we've been waiting for. Did he play? Can't remember.
He had a 1.0 KDA.
Okay. That's about what I get when I play League of Legends. He almost killed Abadaga once.
Yeah, but he didn't.
I don't get it, man. I don't get it. But the difference may have been we got the power picks for ourselves this time. We got the Gwen. We got the Philios. those were ours. Those did not belong to them for this time. As you pointed out too, we got Thresh and we got Olaf. Olaf was a pop-off this time. Now, it's not always a pop-off, even for closer, right?
No.
Despite, who was it? Was it Azael on the cast that was going nuts about his closer, about his Olaf? Can't remember, but what the color caster really loved his Olaf.
I can see why.
Yeah, and yeah, justified for this time. He was 6-0-3. Flowers pointed out at one time he was 6-0-0, the like ultimate ultimate KD, right?
Ultimate carry.
All kills, no assists.
Yeah, it's all mine. And it was like that top lane just left with a triple kill, and that is what I was thinking of when I talked about him on Viego. Like, he shows up to that fight on Viego, he just is another death, right? This is another one of those clips where, like, I guess closer also, he wanted to stand with his teammates in solidarity, in the top lane massacre that happened here. But instead on this one, he showed up and the fight was going their way, and they had drawn early blood on it. But he was just a menace, man. He could not be stopped, literally. And this is the kind of champion that I like to see him on. I think this fits his play style, and Olaf is not always a sure bet. So this is not me saying just pick him Olaf every time, but certainly in this way. And to just go back and reiterate, Gwen, Aphelios, Thresh, Olaf, like, somebody needs to launch an investigation here on this one. How did this happen? Who did they pick even? What other champions are there? They picked Dr. Mundo. That's one thing they did, So they gave us some champs.
Yeah,
I'll say
they definitely did. But they got that lethality Varus, Jordan. And someone just said this in chat. They were talking about who he mentioned that closer had not played Olaf. They hadn't scrimmed it or anything. He just pulled it back out.
Yep.
Those are the things you love to see. Can you this is a good reminder of what the difference between this 100 Thieves is and past 100 Thieves. Champ Ocean to be able to draw from with basically every position for us. And whereas before we had like two players, maybe like what they're playing every single time. So dang, man.
Yeah, and I think it looks like it may have been Hudson who mentioned that in chat. Hey Hudson. Here's the thing, Cole. Why wouldn't that be a comfort anytime pick, right? Why wouldn't Olaf be? What jungler in the LCS hasn't played 1,000 games of Olaf in
it's climbing
their career?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I think that's great, and I think what it speaks to is the team's confidence in just like playing what feels like the right champ. And again, if you think about like us under Zix, it didn't feel that way at all. I have to imagine that there were a lot of champions that we hadn't scrimmed and didn't feel like we had a strategy for. And so we were just like, nah, it's not going to happen. So I love to hear that. I listened to the post game with Hui too. I thought that was a cool post game format, by the way. Like I much prefer that segment with them on the desk than them.
Yeah.
One-on-one, like reporter style.
100%. Yep.
Very cool. And I think having players like Hai there who can just say like, what were you thinking when you built that? I think that's a super cool thing too. So anyway, yeah, I thought that was
thinking I still play in the LCS. What about you, Hai?
No, he had that.
No, I agree. Did
you catch that one? Yeah. Yeah. But it's cool. It's like he knows enough to ask that, where I think most people probably don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a great sign. And I hope we do more of that. Because it will make us so much harder to prepare for.
Yeah.
Because look, teams know what you're scrimming. They know what to expect from your scrims based on your scrims, and they weren't expecting Olaf. That's why they didn't ban it. That's why I didn't do anything about it.
Well, let's do this. So, I mean, there's no reason to really talk about the TSM game because it wasn't a matchup. Talk to me again when they are good. Let's. I want to do one general thing before we move on to listener takes, and then we'll do predictions, and then we'll do the Gucci collab and call it a night.
Yeah.
At least for this pod, because remember, we are doing talk trios after this. So
we got
if you're
more to
interested in
talk
talking LA Thieves and want to do that, want to come on the show, load up and patch your Warzone right now and drop in with us. We need to come up with a name for this segment because I've noticed that I do this a lot and I don't know what to call it, but it's like
workshop it.
Not really an issue, but kind of starting to be a thing, right? Or like maybe it's something to watch, whatever. Chat, you guys workshop that. Workshop maybe that name for watch. Us. It's like probably no big deal, but if not addressed, maybe becomes a thing. I have to say this, and this pains me a lot, and I don't like. Again, I just want to just make this ultra clear. I do not think this player is a problem. I love him. I want to keep him forever. Sometimes the Abbedagge performances are reminding me of like 2019 Ssumday. Cast your mind back.
Oh, where are you going with this?
Cast your mind back to sorry, I just noticed in chat Crockpot57 called this potential bad takes, and I think that's what we got to call it. That's what we got to call it, or like super risky takes, right? It's not a hot take. I don't know, maybe it is a hot take. I don't like a hot take though, so I gotta call it something different. Anyway, do you remember back then Ssumday, like always really rock solid player, you could not defeat him, right?
Yeah.
But he also turned in a lot of like 0-0-3 stat lines and like 1-1-3 stat lines.
Yeah.
And it just felt like we weren't taking advantage of him and integrating him as much. I felt like in the past few weeks, I've started to get just the smallest hint of that from Abbedagge. Just the smallest hint. Again, love this player. Think he's the best. I want to keep him. Yes, I've got nothing against. But a lot of times it just feels like, oh, just waiting for the pop-off moment. He's on the Silas. He's about to get in there and wreck everything. And then like, but he's split pushing. He got that turret. All right, cool. That's what it feels like, you know? Like, is it just me? I go back and look at his stat lines as of late. When we win, it's just like he's 1-0-4 on this game against TSM. And I feel like that's pretty representative right now.
And he was on his house. Yep. Well,
yeah. Look, it's like having this killer jacket. Actually, this is me right now. This is literally me right now. Okay. I have like literally the best leather jacket ever designed and made in my closet, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never, ever wear it. It's always there, but I never take it out and put it on.
You were in LA, didn't you?
No. And we just need to take him out of the closet and let him go nuts, right? It just feels like we have this powerful pop-off potential thing, and we're not finding a way to switch it on. Earlier on the split, we did. Right now, it just feels like not contributing as much as we could.
I don't know. Cole, I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta challenge you on this and find ways to excuse things that could otherwise be a problem.
Okay. That's what this segment's all about.
That's there's the long title. There's only so many kills to go around. How many kills were in this game total? We had 13. We finished the game. We destroyed TSM's Nexus with 13 kills.
Okay, but your mid laner should probably have a portion of those.
He had a portion. He had one. He had a small portion. He had as many as Thresh. So let me erase that from the record. Wipe it.
Okay. Try number 2. Go.
Let me try that again. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I guess for me, the thing is this. I think we have multiple carry players, and not every player can carry in every game. And in this game, he didn't need to be carrying the game because Closer was 6-0-3. Closer cleaned up the game. And then Aphelios was there to do a jillion damage a second. And that's pretty much how this game goes, right? Like, and then you have Gwen. So what is Silas's job in this team? Gwen is snipping everybody. She's standing in the middle of 4 champions doing her snips. Aphelios is standing 5 feet away doing a jillion damage a second. And then Closer is on top of someone killing them. Where does Silas fit into this puzzle piece? And maybe the answer is not really anywhere. Like, I don't know what Silas brings to this team other than the obligatory 5th person. But like, we won this game with those 4 champions, right? So for me, I mean, maybe that's what he is. He's a side lane pressure device. Yeah, that's fine. Like, I'm not smart enough to explain what is happening here. Only that I think that in this game we had it well under control, and we didn't need him to be doing flash over the wall, kill someone with a collie, jump back. You know, like that wasn't this game.
Yeah.
They did have a Mundo, actually. My last point. They had a Mundo, and that Mundo is the only champion. Silas is the only champion who is pretty well negated by the Mundo, because he has no ability to lock him down because of his passive. He just shrugs off the CC. None of these other guys have CC. They just stand on top of you and kill you. And that's why Huni had a bad game. Don't blame Huni.
Okay, fair enough. BC, by the way, pointing out he has the lowest damage per minute in the last 6 games. Not what you expect out of your mid laner.
We played Yasuo.
But I also, first of all, I think maybe we call this segment Cole's Got a Feeling.
Okay.
All right. Because sometimes the feeling turns out to be something, and a lot of times it doesn't. Not ready to call it a take, because this is one thing I don't want to do. I'm not claiming, based on that one game, what my statement is. It's over more than that. And the other thing is, again, I think he's really, really good, and I love having him, and I don't think he's problematic. I just, want to dial it up more. Set him free. That's all I wanted to say, man. Just, I got a feeling, and I'm going to keep my eye on it, and I just want him to be fully unleashed. Okay. Let's do an abbreviated listener take segment, because we don't have a ton of time.
Talk trios, baby.
JC101 says, our losses this weekend just show we're not scared to try things on stage. Our win against TSM shows that when we draft well, we're just the best team in NA. This is like a calm you down kind of take on how the game went. Because if you want to call the Yasuo pick like experimental or whatever, it's like trying something new. What does Abadaga look like that? How does that fit into this specific team comp we drew? Like, okay, I'm kind of with that, What are your thoughts on that take?
I think that's right. That's how I feel. Yeah. I think I mentioned earlier that like the Yasuo one especially felt like us just kind of trying new things. And sometimes you miss. And I think that's right. Sometimes we miss. And I would still rather us do that than become, predictable. I think it's much better to be unpredictable and fallible than predictable and just a matter of time before everybody figures you out.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is a little bit of what happened with C9. And perhaps Reaper has learned a lesson there. Right.
Yeah. And speaking of C9 in the present, Night Beast X1 says, I'm not sad that the team lost twice, because it's not good to be complacent going into playoffs. Love that. He said, it's good that we got the wake-up call this weekend because other teams are improving. And then says, at least we're not Cloud9 losing to FlyQuest Academy. Love it.
We lost to upgraded GG.
We did. Yeah. But, we'll see. Lil Thief said, Reaper to Navadaga was the best combo to propel 100T to be number 1 in the LCS. However, my take is, if we got just one of the two, 100T wouldn't be where it is right now.
Believe that.
100%. Yeah. I think the way we've said it is we've gotten the full wish list in the past offseason. We got Ssumday green card, we got import mid who's sick, and we got the best coach on the market.
Yep.
Probably the best coach, 100%. Period, for LCS.
Yeah.
So 100%.
It's like you have your one, and we got it at every spot, like our first choice. It's crazy.
Yeah. Really quick, Dr. Nolly suggests that with the Viego, maybe it's time to give it to Abba. That's an interesting take too. I would like to see that. I'd like to see him on literally every champion. I just any champion that goes in mid lane, I would like to see what it looks like on it.
And look, I agree, because even if it doesn't work, one, I think there's a chance that, to my other point, we have other people on the team who will carry, and it's not a problem. And two, he is a mechanical monster, and that feels like a champion that he could snowball with in these fights, as I talked about earlier.
Yep. Okay, and then the final take tonight comes from our dear BC, who says, I think the following weeks are very important for the squad. We're seeing EG, GG, and Fly make early game plays and snowballing them very well. Meanwhile, top teams, including us, seem to be fine, as I mentioned earlier, handshaking the game until later to fight. I want to see how the team handles this.